What's up, Flannelverse? Doing kind of an abridged version of the before lock showdown breakdown here. Still going a little over an hour. Going to be doing the usual, starting with quarterbacks, then running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. I'll be taking questions and making my lineups here on the stream for the Black Friday slate. We've got the Bears at the Eagles. All right. I'm not gonna waste a ton of time here. Do appreciate you guys coming in here. Apologies for being a bit late. Honestly, I thought I had scheduled this for later than I had, and was not quite prepared. A lot of work to do on a Black Friday. I forgot. It's not really a holiday for most, and that includes me. So, although I will be doing my second Thanksgiving celebration in a little while, I had a bit of work that I needed to get done before I could start here. But now that we're here, I am ready to start breaking things down. Again, going to start with quarterbacks. Starting with Jalen Hurts is the highest projected player on the slate. Eagles offense ranks 18th in terms of pass rate over expectation on the season. Now, does that matter as much for Jalen Hurts, who runs a little bit? Not really. We don't care about it as much as we would for a statue quarterback. And in terms of the matchup, it's a fairly strong one for Jalen Hurts. The Bears defense has allowed the 11th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game over the past 5 weeks to quarterbacks. Things looking good. Jalen Hurts, I'm sure we don't have to worry about stacking as much with Hurts because, again, he runs quite a bit, scores quite a bit on the ground. On the season, has 8 touchdowns in 11 games on top of 27.1 rushing yards per game. So, not like a Lamar Jackson type where he's, got the upside of rushing for 100 yards. Although is Lamar Jackson even a Lamar Jackson type anymore? I'm not sure. But he can score multiple touchdowns on the ground. So you can play Jalen Hurts wherever you want to in your lineup without worrying about the stack. Oh, this is a good note from Rance. 30 mile per hour wind. Is this a double defense late? I have not looked at the weather. So let me look at the weather real quickly. Because that could affect things a little bit in what we want to do here. That's always a blind spot where sometimes I forget to look at what the weather looks like in a game, and it can be impactful. Usually, I think we don't want to overrate the weather, but if it is sustained 30 mile per hour winds, that would obviously make a difference here. Let's see. Winds are around 15 mile per hour sustained at kickoff, dropping to around 10 mile per hour sustained late game. Gusts throughout the game should be between 25 to 30. So, we're not really looking at crazy high winds here. Although D-Man says, I'm an hour from Philly and it's windy as fuck here. Okay, that is good to know. Yeah. So we can factor that in a little bit, I guess. Should be a nice matchup through the air with the Bears, not factoring in the weather. I think with Hurts, that does make the running games a little bit more appealing if we do think it's going to be windy here. I still think I like playing Hurts and the Philadelphia passing game, in part because they're going kind of overlooked in general. I actually have not looked at what the Run the Sims ownership projections are, but around the industry, I'm seeing really low ownership projections on some of the Philadelphia pass catchers. So I'm planning on playing them as of right now. We'll see if maybe there have been, if we have a different ownership projection here at Run the Sims. But Jalen Hurts, obviously a strong play. I kind of like the idea, and I brought this up before. Sometimes when you play a player like Jalen Hurts at captain, people aren't going to want to be multi-stacking him. So I kind of think that's a fun angle to play, is play Jalen Hurts at captain with, 2-3 pass catchers on the Eagles and just hope that he gets his production through the air instead of on the ground. And it's going to be, it seems really straightforward, playing the quarterback with multiple pass catchers. Easy way to get upside. But people often want to play Jalen Hurts naked or with one pass catcher when he's in the captain spot, because obviously his highest ceiling is if he does score multiple touchdowns on the ground, but he can put up a big score through the air also. So I like the idea of playing some lineups with Jalen Hurts at captain and mega stacking it with lots of Eagles pass catchers with him. Yeah, Sean, for anybody who has not seen Sean's turkey pictures in the Flannelverse Discord, first of all, Flannelverse Discord, free to join. There's a link in the description of this video. Sean wraps his turkey in bacon, and it looked absolutely incredible. I've never seen that done before, wrapping the turkey in bacon. Obviously, that's going to be delicious. How could it not be? In my first run of the Sims, Jalen Hurts projected for 60% flex ownership, 22% captain ownership. I got slightly under the field at 54% flex, 15% captain. As much as I do like the Eagles passing game, it kind of makes sense to be under the field. If Hurts is going to come in at 82% owned, I think I will probably lean on his pass catchers a little bit more because, again, he is going to be chalky. His pass catcher is going to be less chalky. So I think this is about where I'd like to be, a little bit under the field, both at captain and in the flex. On the other side of the game, we have Caleb Williams, 10,800, projected for 33% flex ownership, 6% captain ownership. I got to 35% flex, 10% captain. Caleb Williams, of course, plays in the Windy City, so I think should be used to playing in wind by now, at least a little bit. I guess he hasn't played that many games for the Bears in his career, in his second year here, but should be at least somewhat used to playing in the wind. So yeah, getting slightly over the field here. It's not a great matchup with the Eagles. They have been just awesome in recent weeks in shutting down opposing offenses. Caleb looks like a fairly strong play though, and we do have some of his pass catchers are players that I like quite a bit on this slate. In terms of the rushing, Caleb actually has been rushing a bit, 26.6 yards per game on the ground, plus 3 rushing touchdowns in 11 games. So I think you can, in some lineups, play Caleb Williams unstacked or play him with just one pass catcher in the when he's in the captain spot, because again, 3 rushing touchdowns in 11 games is not nothing, and he's rushing for about the same yards per game as Jalen Hurts. The Bears rank 22nd in terms of pass rate over expectation, so they do prefer to run first. Eagles have allowed the 15th fewest schedule adjusted fantasy points per game over the last 5 games to quarterbacks. So kind of neutral on its face. Yeah, I guess I don't know what to make of this Eagles team because they have shut down. I mean, if you look at their recent scores, I mean, they shut down the Lions, they shut down the Packers, and then of course the Cowboys came in and put up a decent game, 24 points. But yeah, the past 3 opponents of the Eagles, 24 for the Cowboys, which honestly fairly low for Cowboys. Lions only scored 9 points on the Eagles, and Packers only scored 7. So like they've been pretty good at stopping opposing offenses. Makes me like Caleb a little bit less, but again, if he's going to be coming in at just 39% ownership, I'm happy to get to a little bit over the field, both in the flex and at captain. I think that's all I've got to say about the quarterbacks. Let's move on to running backs. This should be a relatively quick. I mean, I started the show a little bit late. I don't think that should be an issue because there are not a ton of like off the wall plays here. I think it's pretty like we have condensed offenses, not that much that is difficult to break down. Any score predictions for today? It's getting lower and lower. I think at this point, I'd say like 24-17 Eagles. Let's go with that. All right. Running backs. Saquon Barkley, 10,600, projected for 40% flex ownership, 27% captain ownership. I got to 56% flex, 31% captain. Man, I was anticipating being higher on the receivers. Actually, I'm just going to stop here and look at the receivers. How much are they projected for? All right. So Run the Sims has Devontae Smith projected for 22% flex, 9% captain, AJ Brown 28 and 11. So this is, I think, a little bit higher than I've seen elsewhere. Actually, maybe I can just pull up Roto Grinders, because when I was looking at it last night, I was pretty surprised at how low the ownership was on some of these pass catchers, including Devontae Smith. Yeah, they have Devontae Smith at under 2% captain ownership. They do have him at 27% flex. Okay. Run the Sims has 9% captain ownership. Obviously, a huge difference between 9 and 2%. But I actually think I looked at some other sites and they were closer to Run the Sims. I think this one might be. I think I might change the ownership projections to more closely reflect other sites because I think this is one of those weird slates where maybe these are not real ownership projections at Run the Sims. I think they only guarantee like Thursday, Monday, Sunday for Showdown. I'm not sure if they included Black Friday in that because it's a weird one, but so I might adjust the ownership projections somewhat here. Anyway, Saquon Barkley, I'm getting to a ton. Obviously, a fairly strong play. Let me pull up his workload in 3 weeks since the bye. Go to the bell cow report. Conveniently, the last 3 weeks is the best sample size for both teams because we had week 9. DeAndre Swift was out, and Kyle Monunga had his huge game against the Bengals. And then we have 3 weeks with DeAndre Swift back as well. But first, we'll look at the Eagles. So 3 weeks since their bye, 58 carries for Saquon Barkley, just under 20 carries per game, along with 13 targets. So that's just over 4 targets per game on 58.3% route participation. Really strong workload for Saquon Barkley. Makes sense to get a lot. And then the most recent quote we have on Saquon Barkley, let me pull it up from, I believe it was Nick Sirianni. Might have been the offensive coordinator, Patullo, but let me pull it up here and read off the latest quote. Yeah, it was offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo on the 25th said, "We're trying pretty much anything and everything we can to get Saquon Barkley going." On the 24th, head coach Nick Sirianni said, "Tank Bigsby has done a nice job with the carries that he's had. Obviously, we always want to get Saquon Barkley the ball as much as we can because we know what kind of playmaker is. Saquon did some really good things with the ball in his hand in the past game yesterday as well. Our game plan is always going to start with A.J. Brown, Saquon, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert." I don't think I'm really telling you anything you don't already know. Saquon Barkley is kind of the focal point of this offense. I think we can continue that. We can expect that to continue with the Eagles today. I'm happy to get to a lot of Saquon. Again, as I adjust ownership projections to be maybe closer to what RotoGrinders has them at, I suspect this comes down a little bit as I get to more of the pass catchers, but happy to get to a lot of Saquon Barkley here. And then beyond Saquon Barkley, like we have not seen a great workload for Bigsby or Shipley. Again, just looking at the past 3 games, Shipley has 4 carries in those 3 games and 2 targets on 14.6% participation. So not really used much at all in those games. And then Bigsby, 8 carries, 0 targets. So under 3 carries per game for Bigsby, just over 1 for Shipley. Not a great standalone value for either of them. I do think you can play them for the contingent upside, and I will play them for the contingent upside as usual. Like you just, even without standalone value, I don't like it as much because they both could be big time zeros. But I think both Bigsby and Shipley have multiple paths to contingent upside. Starting with the, obviously if Saquon Barkley gets hurt, it'll be wheels up for both Shipley and Bigsby, especially if it's a first half injury. But there's also, paths where just Saquon is used a lot and needs some rest. They do a lot of running and increase the size of the pie, especially if we're worried about wind. Like maybe they just decide to rush it 30 times in this game and they only want to give 18 of them to Saquon. Suddenly there's a bigger workload for Shipley and Bigsby. But then of course there's also the blowout angle. So a lot of paths to bigger workloads for Bigsby and Shipley, although again, neither of them being used all that much the past 3 weeks. I am going to like them better than the field if the field is only going to play them at 5 and 3%. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It does look like the ownership is different from the optimal rates. So they're not just putting the optimal rates on ownership. So I think these are at least sort of real ownership numbers that we're working with. So that's good to see. So yeah, I am going to be probably over the field on Bigsby and Shipley, just due to the contingent upside. We just saw it yesterday. I mean, actually, we didn't see contingent upside, but we saw the running back 2 value. Malik Davis scoring a touchdown just can happen in any given game, kind of randomly. So I'm going to play both of them. And then on the Bears side, we have more of a split between DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monunga. DeAndre Swift is 6,600, Kyle Monunga 5,600. Actually, let me pull up the matchup data here for the running backs. In terms of the matchup, this is is that right? 4th best? No, that's for the entire season. Over the past 5 weeks, it's a strong matchup for the Eagles. Saquon Barkley. Bears defense has allowed the 11th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to running backs over the past 5 weeks. So a relatively strong matchup for Saquon Barkley. And then for the Bears, Eagles defense has allowed the 14th fewest. So just slightly below neutral for the Bears running backs here. Again, if they're playing through wind, maybe they do decide to run it a little bit more. I guess you can make that case for the running backs. But the split has been fairly even. We do have DeAndre Swift seemingly leading over the past 3 weeks. Swift 6,600 projected for 30% and 3. I got to 49% and 9. Monunga 5,600 projected for 16% and 1. I got to 34% and 2. So I'm overweight on both of these Bears running backs. I think that makes sense just given the volatility and the low price tag. Just if one of them does earn a bigger role, if they're playing kind of a hot hand approach, I think it would make sense to get more of the Bears running backs. Over the past 3 weeks, 42 carries for DeAndre Swift, 31 for Kyle Monungai. So more than 10 per game for Monungai, 14 per game for DeAndre Swift. Swift also has 10 targets on 40% route participation. Monungai 2 on 30.4% route participation. Let me actually also pull up the coach speak on Monungai and Swift because we've got some good coach speak recently. Let's see. This is from the 17th. So this is a couple weeks ago. But head coach Ben Johnson on how the Bears are divvying up game reps for DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monunga. He said, I think we're very comfortable with both those guys right now. Both of them have proven that they're very capable with the ball in their hands. They're very dependable in pass protection. I've got a lot of confidence in those guys. It might be series by series. It might be hot hand. We kind of go based on what we see in practice a lot of the time. I feel really good about both those guys. And then on the 25th, so this week, offensive coordinator Declan Doyle said, we have continued to have faith in DeAndre Swift. I'm really confident that he'll continue to bounce back and play good football for us moving forward. Let me look at just last week. So again, over the past 3, we're getting Swift kind of has the better workload of the two of them. I just want to see if it has trended differently at all. Yeah, so Monunga actually got 12 carries to Swift's 8 last week, had the higher snap share, and also ran nearly the same number of routes. Swift is targeted once on 39.5% route participation. Monunga has 0 targets on 34.2% route participation. So we actually saw Monunga kind of take over in that game. So that's at least within the range of outcomes. I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to happen. I don't think that we can really know how it's going to break down just based on the coach speak. It does sound like it's going to be a game-to-game thing. But that was a close game last week. They won by 3 against the Steelers. The game before that, they won by 2 against the Vikings. Game before that, they won by 4. So it's all been close games here, and we've kind of seen seen it fluctuate how they're using the running backs here. Swift revenge. I forgot that Swift played for the Eagles. That is true. So you could, if you want to play it as though Monunga is the lead running back here, I think you could. I think that's a reasonable way to approach it. If you want to play it as though Swift is going to regain his role, I think it's you can play it however you want. I think you can also play both of these running backs in the same lineup, just given the price tag 66 and 5,600. Both are relatively inexpensive. And again, if the team takes, 30 running back carries, both look pretty good at these price tags. So yeah, I think makes sense to be overweight the running backs. Again, though, I was planning on playing the angle of receivers. So I'll have to come back around and think about whether I'm actually going to be overweight on both of these running backs, or if I'm going to take a stand on maybe just being overweight on Monunga, given the price tag and the ownership difference. Let me actually look at Roto-Grinders in terms of ownership. They have Swift at 30%, Monunga at 25%. So a little bit higher for Monunga. Still have Swift ahead of Monunga. Interesting. Okay. And I'm not playing any other running backs on the Bears beyond those 2. Let's move on to wide receivers. Wide receivers, we have a lot of kind of fun angles, I think. All right. Let me catch up on chat first. All right. Darius Cooper, we'll get into wide receivers, but I don't think we've really seen much from Darius Cooper. Yeah, happy holidays to everybody. Hope you're enjoying your Black Friday. Hopefully some of you did take the day off. Rant thinks more tight end, potentially. Of course, the turkey was excellent. Let's see. Okay. How many tush push tutties today? Probably 1. I think I'd set the over under at 1. I do agree with this. So like the Bears, they're so cheap and it's kind of volatility, which I always like in a running game, but it is also a tough defense. I mean, this Eagles team has been just shutting teams down, this defense. Sean thinks stars and scrubs. I was kind of thinking probably stars and scrubs too. We don't have any like real scrubs. We have some pay down options that we'll get to here in a minute. I think that looks good. Oz Beasley. No issue with that. Yep, double stacking Bears running backs if you want to get contrarian. That works. Has Cooper taken over Dotson? No, not in terms of routes run, at least. We'll look at the routes run. Yeah, Bears defense is still pretty banged up. They got back a couple defensive backs, but there's still another one out today, and they're missing some linebackers. So it is kind of a banged up Bears defense. Favorite contrarian captain and favorite play of the slate. Devontae Smith, my favorite contrarian captain. Although he's, again, at Run the Sims, apparently projecting for 9% as opposed to 2% elsewhere, so it doesn't look quite as good. And then favorite contrarian play of the slate, or favorite play of the slate. It probably is Devontae Smith, given his price tag. What's up, Brandon? Good to see you. All right. Wide receivers. We're going to start on the Eagles side. Again, Run the Sims has it at 22-9. Everywhere else I'm seeing, and actually let me double check if that's still true elsewhere as well, because I've seen like really low ownership projections on Devontae Smith. So I come in, of course, thinking I'm going to play all of the Devontae Smith, and then look at Run the Sims, and it's always higher. The players I really want to play are always projected higher at Run the Sims. Let's see. Oh, quick captain. Okay, I'm seeing in between. I'm seeing a split. So 2% in at Rotogrinders, 9% at Run the Sims, split between them elsewhere. But Devontae Smith, only 8,600. Nice price savings on like AJ Brown, especially when you multiply it by 1.5 at the captain spot. I'm going to be in on Devontae Smith. I think I'm going to move his captain projected ownership lower, and I'll probably get to like 20-some% Devontae Smith a captain. Just take a really overweight approach there. Again, he's only 8,600. Here is being projected 22-9. Elsewhere, it's like 25 and we'll say 5. So lower captain ownership on average for Devontae Smith, and I'm going to like that quite a bit. Again, looking at that price discount we're getting on Devontae Smith. There was a while there that Devontae Smith and AJ Brown were kind of converging in terms of their price. They were about the same. Now we've seen a couple big weeks from AJ Brown, or I guess really just one big week. I think last week from AJ Brown. The week before that was the week that I really liked him because they were playing a lot of man coverage and he was fine, but not amazing. But just looking at the usage for the past few weeks for the Eagles, we have 24 targets for AJ Brown on 87.4% route participation, 23 for Devontae Smith on 95% route participation. So like one fewer target and running a lot more routes for Devontae Smith. I really don't see a reason that AJ Brown should be, and obviously there's more to it than just volume. So like maybe AJ Brown is just way better, but I think that Devontae Smith is really good. So I don't really think I need to. I don't see a huge difference in what I'd expect out of Smith versus AJ Brown here. So I'm going to play a lot of Devontae Smith at that price discount. If we look at, let's see, the wide receiver cornerbacks matchup. AJ Brown has Jalen Johnson returning, covering him. Devontae Smith has CJ Gardner Johnson. Looks like both slightly negative / neutral matchups. Nothing really standing out here in terms of the coverage matrix. Let's take a look at that because I looked about the same in the coverage Yeah, the coverage grade, like it's the best for Dallas Goedert, just barely, and then AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. So I guess Brown's slightly better here, but like they're all like pretty positive matchups. Nothing standing out as like exceptional. I think both are, similar plays, but we're getting Devonta Smith at $1,000 cheaper and lower ownership. So I'm going to lean in on Devonta Smith here. AJ Brown, again, like relatively strong play. He also has been targeted 24 times over the past 3 games. Nice usage there. And again, this is a strong matchup for receivers. I guess I read off what it is for quarterbacks, but for receivers, Bears defense allowed the 9th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So I'm going to like the Eagles receivers here, but my preference is Devonta Smith just for the discount in both ownership and actual price. So yeah, I'm going to be playing more of Smith than AJ Brown, but I think both are fairly strong plays here. I did get in this run of the Sims with AJ Brown projected for 28% flex and 11% captain ownership. I only got to 20% flex and 6% captain, so I was under the field there. And then beyond those two, I mean, we can. Jahan Dotson is 3,200 projected for 3% ownership. I got to 7%. Darius Cooper 1,000 projected for 3%. I got to 4%. To answer your question, has Darius Cooper taken over the wide receiver 3 role? I did not see that, but let me just double check that. We can look at the route participation report. No, I mean, look at Darius Cooper. Since the bye, 14% route participation, 3% and 12%. Jahan Dotson, 45, 48, 63. So if anything, Jahan Dotson trending up as far as route participation. It's wild how many routes Jahan Dotson runs and how few fantasy points he scores. Again, we can pull up the fantasy points scored report. And I got to put up wide receivers. Jahan Dotson did have 11 in week 8, but that was with AJ Brown out. And again, I pulled this up a few times already this year, but like his only really good game last year was in week 18 with both AJ Brown and Devonta Smith out. Same kind of thing this year, week 8 with AJ Brown out is the only time he scored double-digit fantasy points. Obviously, he's running enough routes. He could just have a broken play, score a touchdown at any given time. So I'm happy to be, slightly above the field if the field's at 3%, but not some huge priority because we just have a pretty large sample size at this point of he just does not produce even when he's out there all the time. So again, like I think he's a relatively strong play if he comes in at 3% ownership. I'm getting a 7%. I'm happy with that because football is a random game. There are broken plays. He could suddenly have a 6-yard touchdown out of nowhere just because the Bears defender fell down or something like that. But being just a little bit over the field makes sense. I don't need to have him in 30% of my lineups. And then Darius Cooper, I have 4%. I mean, you're just kind of hoping for his, one reception to be for a touchdown. Or, I mean, obviously you always have contingent upside. Something happens to a player in front of him, he's suddenly running more routes, has more opportunities. But it's a thin wide receiver 4 play here on the Eagles. On the other side, we have the Bears, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Olamide Zaccheaus, Devin. We'll start with Rome Odunze is the top receiver here at 9,000 projected for 26% flex ownership, 6% captain ownership. I only got to 12% in the flex, 1% at captain of Odunze. Again, if we just look at the last 3 weeks for the Bears, Odunze still leads the team in targets by a significant margin, 25, so over 8 targets per game on 70.4% route participation. If we look at the Bears route participation week over week, it's interesting that they don't really have any like full-time players. Rome Odunze, for a while early on in the season, 93 route participation weeks 1 and 2. He was looking like a wide receiver 1, like elite, is going to break fantasy. And then it's been kind of sporadic since then and fairly low the past few weeks. The last 3, 76, 69, 66. Just not running as many routes as you expect for a wide receiver 1. Part of that, I think, is the emergence of the rookies, and they're kind of taken from everywhere in terms of their usage. But I don't fully know what to make of Rome Odunze and why they've kind of moved away from him a little bit. What's up, D-Bro? Nice hit yesterday on your parlay. Oh no, we've also got the bots coming in here. Okay. All right. So anyway, Rome looks fine to me at 9,000. I'm leaning more on the Eagles passing game because it is sort of a tough matchup. Again, you just look at the number of points the Eagles have not allowed over the past few weeks. Like they've been a really tough matchup, kind of across the board in recent weeks. Strong usage for Rome Odunze. Eagles defense, though, has allowed the third fewest schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to wide receivers over the past 5 weeks. Again, you can, I believe this is a free tool. So if you want to go to fantasypoints.com, you can find this under the research tools. This is schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed per game. Really tough matchup for Rome Odunze. So we can pay it off if he gets the volume. If, 8 or 9 targets is enough volume that even if it's a tough matchup, he can certainly get there. But I'm currently getting under the field. I probably want more than the 13% I'm getting right now, but maybe not that much more because there are a lot of other plays that I'm pretty into. So honestly, I might not actually get that much more than this. I think I'm just not really prioritizing expensive bears, just given the struggles I'm expecting from them. After Rome Odunze, it is sort of a mess in how you break down the bears. So Luther Burden, 3,800, looks great. He's 3,800. His role has been ascending, as you can see, over the past few weeks. So he was out in week 9 and then up to 46% route participation, 61, and then back down to 53. We've seen him kind of take over a lot of Olamide Zacchaeus' work, although Zacchaeus took some of that back last week from Luther Burden. He's a really fun player. Like he's a talented rookie who we've kind of been expecting him to take off later on in the year. We're starting to see it from Luther Burden. 13 targets over the past 3 weeks, 53% route participation. He's a little bit too cheap for his increasing role here. I'm not getting to that much because they're projecting him for 47% flex and 3% captain ownership. I want to double check that with other places. Yeah, Rotogrinder says him at 32% flex ownership. And 6% captain. Interesting. So they're giving him more captain ownership, less flex ownership. I think that makes sense. I think people who are in on Burden are probably going to play him more at captain than you would think. Just like make the full on bet on Burden taking on a significant role here. I like Burden quite a bit. Like at 3,800, makes a lot work in your lineup. I'm probably not going to have him in half of my lineups, which is what he's being projected for right now at Run the Sims. But I think having him in 40% probably is where I'm aiming with Burden. And then I'm pretty intrigued by DJ Moore. Not because I think he is likely to have a big game here and pay off 8,000. Again, Rome Odunze is 9,000 and clearly has a better workload than DJ Moore. But I'll make the case for DJ Moore because he is, historically he's been a star wide receiver, and we haven't really seen it yet this year. He has not looked great overall, but he's only 8,000. Excuse me. He still has pretty strong usage. Again, as we've seen, Rome's route participation kind of down the past few weeks. DJ Moore, 63%, actually led the team with 81% route participation in week 11, led the team with 68% route participation in week 12. So he has kind of been coming on of late. And if we look at, so this is the past 3 weeks for DJ Moore, 14 targets. That's not really elite usage. I believe just 1 carry over that time span. Same number of routes as Rome over the past 3 weeks. But then his most recent game is his best game of the season, was targeted 7 times in that game, 68% route participation. I believe he scored 2 touchdowns in the most recent game. So I think you can, be optimistic that maybe DJ Moore is kind of getting going as the season goes on, is the case that I'll make for him. The real case, the best case for DJ Moore is I still think that he still has talent in him. He still is capable of putting up fantasy points, and nobody's playing him. And this 14% projected ownership that we're seeing at Run the Sims, that's higher than I've seen anywhere else, or 15% total ownership. Let me double check where Roto-Runners is now, because I looked at this morning. Yeah, they have him at 8% projected ownership in the flex, and at captain 0.5%. So DJ Moore, like, do I think he's likely to score a lot of points and be a great play at 8,000? I don't think that's the likeliest scenario. But if he's being projected elsewhere for single digit ownership, captain and flex combined, and he just had his best game of the year, and we've kind of seen him, his route participation, kind of taken over as the leader in terms of route participation over recent weeks. I think you can make a case for DJ Moore as a really strong play here. I'll probably try to get to 20-25% DJ Moore. And yeah, I think there's a good chance that those lineups are just taking a big dud worth $8,000. So it's a fairly expensive dud. But I also think that there is some chance that he is coming in way too low owned, and we could see him get 7, 8, 9 targets and a carry or two again, and it could start working at some point. Again, it's been a pretty bad year for DJ Moore, so I don't want to oversell it like this is a star receiver who's being completely overlooked, but I still think he has some talent in him. We just saw it last week. Maybe the team, after seeing him score 2 touchdowns, is more likely to try to continue to get him involved. Like, let's get this guy rolling. He's, we just saw him kind of break out last week, get out of a season-long funk. So at 8,000, if nobody is chasing the box score from last week, I'm going to chase the box score a little bit from last week. Again, maybe 20-25% of my lineup, something like that. And again, this 15%, this is higher than I've seen his projected ownership anywhere else. So beyond Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, I think it gets very thin. Olamide Zaccheaus, 3,000. But again, the route participation the last few weeks, 61% week 10 down to 14. And then back up to 24. So I guess you could make the case that maybe they didn't like what they saw out of Burden, and Zaccheaus continues to take back his role, but I think that is less likely. Not the angle that I'm planning on playing. I got to 3% at 1% projected ownership. That seems fine. Devin Duvernay is just 200. I got to 1%. He's projected for 1%. Not any kind of real interest, has not run a route each of the past 3 weeks. He'll be involved in special teams. I guess he has contingent upside, but I think Devin Duvernay, a fairly thin play. I think that's it for wide receivers. So I'll move on to tight ends. Checking on chat. Sean says, I do want to call it the Eagles typically give up more to wide receiver too. Interesting. So I guess that would also benefit Devonta Smith, depending on, I think most people consider him the wide receiver too. Anthony says Odunze does better against man. Let's see. So we go to receiving man versus zone. Not that I don't believe you, but I want to. Odunze, 2.36 yards per route run against man, 1.87 against zone, and then I didn't pull up the wide receiver coverage matchup tool. It's a slight positive matchup for Rome. I think 27.7% man is kind of average. Yeah, it's not like a super heavy man team, unfortunately. So it doesn't really benefit Rome. But again, let's look at the Bears overall. Great coverage grade for Colston Loveland. Actually, a really positive one for DJ Moore. So if you want one more reason to think about putting some DJ Moore in your portfolio, strong coverage grade matchup here. Okay, tight ends. Dallas Goedert, 5,200, projected for 42% flex, 7% captain ownership. I got to 24 and 5. Again, like Dallas Goedert, a player that I was planning on playing a lot of, and then we come in with really hot ownership here that makes him obviously less appealing. Roto-Grinders says him at 38% flex, and they do have him at 11% captain ownership. So he's getting a lot of ownership. I think it makes sense when you look at the matchup. It's a fairly strong one for Dallas Goedert. This is the 11th or so best matchup for tight ends on the season in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed per game. You look at 3 weeks since the bye, he is third on the team in targets, 13. I mean, just over 4 targets per game, 85.4% route participation. So fairly low price tag, but he's like, he's more expensive than a Luther Burden. He's not nothing. 5,200. Nice matchup. Great coverage grade or strong coverage grade for Dallas Goedert, best on the team. I think like if he does come in at 49% ownership, that does seem a bit much. As you can see here, I got to under 30 using those numbers. I think he's like an objectively strong value. But if he's going to be this chalky, then yeah, I'll probably be underweight on Dallas Goedert. Calcaterra and Kylan Granson are just kind of the classic dart throws on players that are very unlikely to do anything. Calcaterra, 2 targets over the past 3 games, 14.6% route participation. Granson, 2 targets, 9.7. I don't have any great takes there other than, yeah, you can hope for a touchdown or hope that Granson, I mean, he's only 200, so I guess you just need a catch for 10 yards is potentially enough because there are a lot of pretty strong spend ups on the slate. So maybe the 200 guy is the guy you need. And I think he probably is the best 200 guy on the slate. So there's your case for Granson. I got to triple the field in my first run. But nothing more to say. It's a long shot. You're just hoping for a little bit and needing the 200 guy in your lineup. On the Bears side, Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet. Loveland is 4,400, Kmet 2,400. Loveland projected for 35% flex and 2% captain ownership. Kmet 17% flex, none at captain. I got to 12% Loveland at flex and 2% at captain. I got to just 1% Cole Kmet. That's kind of interesting. Looking at the past 3 weeks, the usage. Loveland 13 targets to Kmet's 8. Loveland 54% route participation to Kmet's 50. So honestly, the route participation not all that different between Kmet and Loveland. The targets are better for Loveland over the past few weeks. Let's look at the route participation report. We have seen kind of a positive trend for Loveland, 51 to 53 to 58% route participation. Kmet, not that bad either. 44 up to 64% in week 11 actually led Loveland in that game back down to 42%. So I don't think Kmet is completely going away. He's kind of intriguing to me. Like I'm surprised that I'm only getting to 1%. I guess it's the 17% projected ownership seems a bit much, but honestly, at his price tag, I frankly would have expected to get to more of Kmet. He is targeted, I mean, under 3 times per game over the past few weeks, but I'm sort of interested in it. I'm going to have to make some concessions and think about who I don't want to play. Okay, yeah, they have him at 18% also. That doesn't seem super high for a guy who's running half the routes. Like this is a very strong tight end too in terms of the usage. But I guess he is getting ownership. I'm probably going to boost Kmet a little bit. Loveland, though, a lot of interest in at 4,400. Again, we can just kind of hope for the rookie to continue to get more and more usage as the season goes along, which is kind of what we've seen so far for both Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. They're just getting more involved in the offense over time. I think that is likely to continue. Look at the red zone or end zone for tight ends. Yeah, it's a good idea. I will. All right, let's go. Let's go to advanced receiving over the past 3 weeks. Inside the 20 targets on the Bears, it's 3 for Rome, 2 for DJ Moore, 2 for Loveland, 1 for Kmet. End zone targets, it's 4 for Rome Odunze, 2 for DJ Moore, 1 for Olamide Zaccheaus, 1 for Loveland, none for Kmet. So neither of them honestly getting great end zone target. I mean, just 1 over the past 3 for Loveland, 0 for Kmet, and 2 inside the 20 for Loveland to 1 for Kmet. I don't know if it's telling us all that much. Rome's still the primary receiver there in the red zone. And then on the Eagles. So this is where A.J. Brown really separates from Devontae Smith. 5 inside the 20 targets to Devontae Smith's 1. Each does have just 1 end zone targets over the past 3 games. Dallas Goedert, none over the past 3 for what it's worth. But Loveland looks great. Kmet looks honestly pretty good to me, but he's not showing up in the Sims, so maybe he looks better to me than he should at 2,400. And then Durham Smith is 600. I got to 2%. That seems fine. You're just kind of wish casting for a touchdown there. Kickers and defenses, so we've got Cairo Santos 4,800 projected for 23-1. I got to 23-0. Philadelphia Eagles 4,000 projected for 27-1. I got to 14 and 0.5. Jake Elliott 5,000 22 and 0. I got to 27. Bears 3,600 projected for 9 and 0. I got to 28 and 2. So honestly, my biggest take is I really want the Eagles defense, which is the one that I'm not getting to right now. It seems like a smash spot. They're only 4,000. Caleb Williams going to Philadelphia, playing on the road against this elite defense. Like, give me all of the Eagles defense. So I think that is one that I'm going to have to boost up. I'm not getting, I think, because what I'm getting is kind of inversing the Sims, but just from a like expectation of the game, I think it's pretty likely that the Eagles defense gives Caleb Williams a lot of trouble here, and they're only 4,000. So my biggest take is I'm going to boost up the Eagles defense quite a bit. I'm going to kind of inverse what the Sims are currently telling me, because the Sims, it's kind of like football is random, and that is true. But I think that this is one where it's just more likely in reality than it seems on paper that the Eagles defense is just gives Caleb Williams a ton of problems. So I think I'm going to boost up the Eagles defense quite a bit here. All right, I better get into it. Dotson is washed, can't get open, so of course he's going to score 2. That is kind of how it goes a lot of the time. Also, this is great for the defense if it is windy. Obviously, that helps. It doesn't help if they're going to throw the ball less. Like, it should help in terms of maybe more likely that there's an errant ball that it turns into a pick six. But also, if the teams adjust for it and throw the ball less, that's obviously really bad for the defenses. All right, I'm going to start running my lineups because we've only got 20 minutes left here. All right, I started the show a bit late, so that is on me that we're starting. But so I'm going to try to get to more of. Let's see. Let me look across what I need to do. Quarterbacks, I'm fine with what I'm getting. Running backs, I wouldn't mind getting to less of the Bears running backs and giving more of the proportion to Kyle Monangai. I do think Swift probably has the higher upside just given his passing game involvement. But I probably am going to get lower on my Bears running backs a bit overall and probably switch more of it to Monangai, who is cheaper and had the better workload last week. As much as I like Saquon, probably don't need him in this percentage of my lineups, 86% or whatever, 87%. So I'll probably reduce that a bit, maybe increase the passing game work, maybe for both teams, just increase the passing rate. I do like both Bigsby and Shipley. I'll take whatever I get there. I shouldn't say that. I want to be above the field. I'm not going to take whatever I get because I don't want to have like 40% of them. At wide receiver, I think Devontae Smith at captain is going to become a bigger priority for me. I'm going to lower his ownership there. AJ Brown, man, I'm only getting 26%. That's a little scary. Going to try to get to more DJ Moore. I'm underweight on Rome. I think I'm fine with that. Wouldn't mind getting more Burden. I think those are all my takes. All right, tight end. Yeah, I kind of want more of Kmet a little bit and Loveland, I think. I think that's my biggest take because I want a bit more of the Bears tight ends. And then I want more of the Eagles defense. So I'm going to make those adjustments. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to reduce the rush rate on the Bears from 43.5 to 41. Didn't do that right. 41. And the rush touchdown rate to 42. And then I'm going to even out the... Oh, there's a new... I have not seen this normalized ownership option. Yeah, I want to normalize ownership always. That's great. Okay. So I'm going to even out the rushing workload for... Actually, Swift is going to get more receiving work. I'm just going to give Monangai. I'm going to swap them. Monangai 43, Swift 37. Okay, that looks good. I'd like to get more of DJ Moore. I'm just going to move some Zacchaeus to DJ Moore. So I'm going to move Zacchaeus down to 4%. DJ Moore up to 18%. Going to get rid of Durham Smythe. Bring Kmet up to 9%, Loveland up to 16%. And then normalize. Okay. We also have Luther Burden at 47% projected ownership. That seems really high. I'm going to move that down to... Oh, DJ Moore is also at 14% here, which is higher than elsewhere. I'm going to move this down to 44%. Who can I give more ownership to? I'm going to give Munungai 18%. Oops. All right, and then on the Eagles, going to bring the sack rate up to 8%. The rush rate down to 50%. The rush touchdown rate down to 38%. Devonta Smith captain ownership down to 6. Bring Jalen Hurts? No. Saquon up to 30% captain ownership. Yeah. I reduced the rush rate, which is probably going to take away my exposure to Bigsby and Shipley, which I don't love. All right. I'm tempted to get rid of Calcaterra. I'm going to do that. I'm just not going to get to Grant Calcaterra. I think I'm okay with that. Watch him score a touchdown, obviously. And then I'm going to give some of that passing game work to Bigsby and Shipley. All right. There we go. All right, I think now I should get to more of DJ Moore. I'm just going to run it. Don't have a ton of time. Hang on, let me get rid of these bots. Yeah, we got 14 minutes now left until lock. Make sure you get those lineups in. Yesterday was so rough for me because I felt like I had a lot of the low-owned guys. I had a lot of Dontavian Wicks, although his ownership projection came up quite a bit, so I got to less than I was planning on getting, which is a bummer. And I had some, I was well over the field on Isaac Tesla, so that stuff went okay, and Keaton Mitchell. But then my biggest take yesterday was Lamar Jackson gonna smash. And that was like, I was like, if he's only gonna be 28% owned, give me all the Lamar Jackson. He came in at 16%. If you had told me Lamar Jackson was gonna be 16% owned yesterday, I would have had literally 100% of him, and it would have gone quite poorly for me yesterday. But if you could play that slate over again, man, I would play all the Lamar Jackson every time. That game just was terrible from the start. Yeah, Goddard a captain makes a lot of work. For single entry, Goddard or Hurts a captain. I mean, yeah, it's a lot easier with Goddard a captain. I would try that. Yeah, also Cincinnati defense. I mean, that was the other thing. I had a lot of the Baltimore defense, which never felt great because they're facing Joe Burrow, and I think Joe Burrow's really good, but yeah, it was a tough one, and then just didn't go how I thought it would. I mean, it's totally fine to leave 2,000 plus on the table. I'm surprised that you're getting to lineups that you love that leave that much, because there are some really strong pay up options on this slate. But uh, yeah, I got no issue leaving if you're playing, especially in large field GPPs. Like, you're gonna have a unique lineup if you really like it and it leaves 2,000. Like, I would not throw it out just because you're leaving salary on the table. Zellslide says, I think Swift is lower owned than Monunga. He's getting steamed up everywhere. I kind of suspect that too, that it's like everybody's talking about Monunga. People want to play the rookie. Like, people are bored of Swift, I think, at this point. So I would not be surprised. But also, he does have the more of the name value. I think there is going to be some, faction of people who still just think of Swift as being like, he is the starter and he's only 6,600. So I don't know. It's a tough one to gauge. All right. Top lineup: Jalen Hurts captain, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley leaves 400 on the table. Second lineup: Colston Loveland, Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts, Luther Burden, Saquon Barkley uses the full salary cap. So these are not looking super contrarian, like they're going to be unique. At quarterback, I'm getting to 54 and 13 of Hurts, 47 and 15 of Caleb Williams. So a ton of quarterback captain, which I don't usually love, but we'll see. Saquon Barkley, 53 and 14, so came down a bit there. Still plenty of Saquon Barkley. 33 and 4 of Monungai, 18 and 1 of Swift. So I am well under the field on Swift now. I don't love it, but I was thinking I'll probably have to sacrifice my Bears running back exposure to get to what I like elsewhere. Still getting a 7% Bigsby, 10% Shipley. Love that. At wide receiver, okay, I'm getting to 38 and 13 and a half of Devontae Smith now. That looks great. 22 and a half and 7 of AJ Brown. It's well under the field. So kind of risky, but still enough that he doesn't totally kill me if he goes off. Can still get there. Burden, I now have 30%. Odunze, 18 and 2, so well under the field on Odunze. Does scare me a bit, but it's, I still have 20%. DJ Moore, I have 26% in flex plus 4% at captain. So I wanted to take a stand on DJ Moore, and that's what I'm doing right now. If he has a big game, I will have a big day. Jahan Dotson, 5%, Terrace Cooper, 3%, 1% Duvernay. That all seems fine. Goddard, I'm at 27 and 4. Loveland, 31 and 8. That looks great. Still just 7 and 1 of Cole Kmet. I don't love it. I think his price tag is nice, but I think it's whatever. I'll accept it. 4% Kylan Granson. I completely got rid of my Grant Calcaterra, so he could kill me. Defense is special teams. I'm now at 27% Eagles defense in the flex plus 8% at captain. I like it. I think they're just a really strong play on this slate. So I'm happy to be over the field there. I have 12% Cairo Santos, 12% Jake Elliott, 19% Bears defense. I'd say generally happier with my exposures now. So I'm going to download these lineups. And I'll think about making one more set. Honestly, I'm close enough to where I'd like to be that I almost want to just accept what I have now. I'll think about it. See if there's anything that I really need to change. Got to download my DraftKings. All right. Reminder that if you haven't done so, please do like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season and could use your support. Flaniverse Discord, free to join. There's a link in the description of this video. Uh-oh. Hang on. What else? You can win a Flaniverse hat. Use the Flaniverse avatar, which you can also find in the Flaniverse Discord. There's an avatar channel if you want to use the Flaniverse avatar. You can win a Flaniverse hat by using that avatar, winning $1,000 or more in DFS or draft games. Obviously, if it's a draft game on Underdog, you don't need to have the avatar because you can't. Give a shout out with the avatar, a screenshot of your win to myself or Mathology13 on Twitter or wherever you have social media, and then send me your address and I'll send you a hat. All right, do I need to change anything here? Jose says Swift facing his old team, he will ball. It's going to crush me if he balls. Favorite low-owned play is probably DJ Moore. If he does come in at 8%, if he comes in at 15 or 16, I'm not going to like it nearly as much. Still like viable at that ownership, obviously. Moore and Komet or Monungai and Burden. Give me the Moore and Komet side for lower ownership. All right, let's see. So again, current exposures, probably not going to change anything here at this point. 54 and 13 of Hurts. Dallas got him actually under the field, but still that's plenty. 47 and 15 of Caleb Williams. So if Caleb is the captain you need, that's going to look great. That I could reduce that. Could do a filter where I put a max on Caleb Williams captain ownership. The problem is when you do that, it kind of messes with all the other exposures. Like if you, because it pushes in just a different set of lineups. So then suddenly all of your exposures change a bit when you do something like that and you rerun the portfolio. And I like the rest of my portfolio enough that I think I'm just going to accept the 15% Caleb captain. Running back, again, I'm happy with that Saquon exposure. The Swift exposure does make me a little bit nervous because I do think it could be true that that Swift ends up lower than Monungai, in which case I'm probably going to feel foolish having more Monungai than Swift. If he is chalkier, I just use the ownership that they gave me, which I'm not sure. Honestly, I think it's a tough one to project what the ownership is going to look like on Monungai and Swift. So I'm going to leave it as is. Happy with my Bigsby and Shipley exposures. 13.5% Devontae Smith. I mean, if he does come in at half of that, I'm going to be really happy to be double the field. AJ Brown, I think I'm fine with 30%. Luther Burden, great value. I am under the field, but still have enough. Rome could kill me. DJ Moore, I mean, could kill me in the different way where I have way too much and he just is a dud in my lineups. But I'm hopeful. As Tyreek mentioned in the Flaniverse Discord, also a homecoming game for DJ Moore, apparently from the Philadelphia area. So there's that. So happy to be playing a lot of DJ Moore. 4.5% Jahan Dotson, 3% Darius Cooper, 1% Devin Duvernay. I don't have any great takes there. That seems fine. Tight end, I would like more Cole Kmet than what I'm getting. I'm nervous that he's going to crush me, but also he's on the Bears and they might not score that many fantasy points, or that many points, I should say. And he's probably not going to get there without scoring a touchdown. So there's risk, but it's not huge risk. Happy with how much I'm getting of Dallas Goedert, over 30%. 39% Colston Loveland seems good. 8% of captain's kind of fun. And then, yeah, really happy to be getting to a lot of the Eagles defense. So I'd say I'm pretty happy with my exposures here. No need to further adjust at this point. Monunga is the more kick your ass running back. Sean not playing any AJ Brown. You guys doing anything fun on this Black Friday? Anybody else celebrating Thanksgiving a second day? We typically do Thanksgiving with my family on Thanksgiving and then my wife's family the day after Thanksgiving. That's what we're doing this year. So I've got another big meal coming up. Should be fun. Burden or Loveland? I think give me Burden. You'll also have a little more salary on the table if you play Burden instead of Loveland. He's a little bit more like splash play kind of guy. I guess Loveland can too. That is a lot of eating, and I had a big old plate yesterday. It was, I don't even like think of myself as really loving, leaving 1,500 is great. Dotson fade. I mean, yeah, you're totally fine to fade Dotson. Like, he literally, the only good fantasy games he has had since joining the Eagles are when AJ Brown is out. He's never had a good fantasy game with AJ Brown in the lineup. So, yeah, I mean, it's a risk, obviously. Like, he can, like I said, just with a broken play, he can get there. But like, so far, he hasn't really done anything. So I think that's a fine fade. Yes, Burden is fast. I'm excited about Burden. I think they should start using the rookies more. I think it would be fun. Hopefully, it's just at the expense of Olamide Zaccheaus and not DJ Moore, at least for this one game. But yeah, no, I think Burden a pretty fun rookie. Loveland obviously also was a higher regarded rookie coming in than Tyler Warren by most, and we're kind of seeing that lately. But yes, I had a lot of Thanksgiving food yesterday. I normally don't think I love Thanksgiving food, but then I see it all spread out there, and it's just like there's so much good food on Thanksgiving. So I did overeat pretty significantly, and I'll probably do that again in a couple hours after I take off here. All right. Again, feel free to join the Flanner's Discord. Free to join. Appreciate all of you for hanging out with me during this showdown breakdown. Hopefully, let's make some money. Let me know if you do make some money. I love hearing from you, even if you're not going after a Flaniverse hat. Always cool to hear from people winning some money in the Flaniverse. All right. Good luck on this slate, everybody. I'll have some videos out tomorrow for the main slate. I'll be back for Sunday Night Football to break that one down prior to lock. Thanks, everybody. Good luck today, and I'll see you soon.